Hi, I'm Isa Baza. I'm here at Public Health to talk about a possible issue regarding tuberculosis, potential exposure at the GMH nursery. So I'm here with GMH CEO Peter John Camacho and DPHSS Director James Gillen. So can you tell us a little bit more about this situation?
Yes. It came to our attention that one of our staff at the hospital had been confirmed as an active TB individual, and so working with public health, we needed to make sure that we took the appropriate steps to be able to make sure that we address the issues with regards to contact tracing, and also the patients, just to make sure that everyone was okay. And so working with public health, we've come up with a plan to be able to see how we can move forward on this.
Okay, so can you tell us more about this plan, on how to address the potential exposure from this employee?
Okay, what you have to do from an epidemiology standpoint is how many were exposed, okay, potential contacts, over what period, okay, do all of the identification of the mom and the child, all of the contact information, and what we are doing now is preparing what we call an algorithm, okay, so that when we do the calls to all of these folks, because I'm talking about potential exposure to the mom and the child, okay, so these are all case contacts. So to ask certain questions, okay, so we have as much information as possible, okay, but the regimen usually requires that all of the children are going to have to be screened, okay, and the mom is going to have to be screened. Any other potential contacts at that time. So the hospital had to spend some time going back over this employee's work schedule just to identify all of the possible points of contact. So once we have those numbers, then we have to determine, okay, the pediatric treatment for any positive indicator is going to be a liquid form of isoniazid, which is INH. Okay, in our stockpile we have a limited source. Thank goodness through the hospital pharmacy we can use the tab form. Okay, reduce it to get it into a suspension that will be compounded by the pharmacy. So we'll be able to provide the dosages that we need to treat the children. We have the dosages for adults, of course. I'm sure for the parents going to be a very emotional, problematic time right now, and we will give them as much information as we can on what the potential problems are with TB in children. Children are more susceptible overall, okay, infants probably more so, but I think that, if there are no other indicators, in these children, and it's over what period, PJ?
We're looking at going back to about 3 months, so about maybe April, actually, just to be safe.
So these are all infants, obviously. So we still are going to have to screen them, okay, and see if we get positive results. Generally, if the babies have been doing well for the last 3 months and they don't seem to have any other problems, there won't be a likelihood of an active case. But like in this case with the employee, okay, this employee had no signs, no symptoms, and it was picked up only as a result of an executive checkup that person had, which looked a little strange. So when they came back with the x-ray, they actually got referred, I think, to GRMC, and was it CT or something more sophisticated, saw that there were some potential problem areas. They did the sputa up there and tested positive for TB. So here's a person not symptomatic at all with active TB, and that has always been the challenge with tuberculosis. You can be fine all through your life and have latent TB, and all of a sudden it becomes active. But this person also had some other comorbidities that probably might have triggered this becoming active. And so we're just going to have to do the usual thing we would do with any other contact. It's just unfortunate that it happened with infants. But being where we are in this part of the Pacific, TB is 3 to 4 times higher in incidence than it is in the United States. And it's just the fact of where we live and what surrounds us. And we just have to continue to stay as vigilant as we can. And the nature of this disease is that sometimes it doesn't show for quite some long periods.
Okay, so can you tell us where exactly this employee was working and how many possible contacts may have been made and with who?
Okay, the individual worked in the nursery department, and based on the time frame that we're looking at, there are about 328 infants that were potentially exposed to this index case.
So have the individuals who may have been in contact been contacted by GMH or Public Health yet?
We're starting that process now. Okay. We, as I said, we have to actually write not really a script, but it's an algorithm. Mm-hmm. You ask a question, depending upon the answer you get, you ask another question to make sure you get very specific information. And if there are concerned people, before we even get in contact with them, we'll be happy to answer any of their questions. We haven't set up a call line yet, but we just want people to be aware that we're aware of the situation. We're going to get to each mom, each family member, and the child to make sure that we screen them all.
Okay, so for those who don't know too much about tuberculosis, how contagious is it and how is it spread?
Right. If it's active TB and you've got a population like newborns, okay, they're more susceptible. Okay. Children themselves, if they have an active case of TB, are not as contagious as adults for some reason. There's just something about the nature of the disease. So we have to make sure that we screen every child. Okay, and this is going to be the most conservative. We're going to do the screening with either a PPD or some other form. We're going to do X-rays. Hospital has agreed to provide all of that service. And as I say, we're lucky that they have a pharmacy that's able to compound the medication so that each child is going to be put on a regimen so that we can make sure. And we'll be subsequently rescreened to make sure there are no problems. But we'll be following them very closely, obviously.
Okay, so if there is a family, who may have been exposed to the GMH nursery in the past few months, what's your advice on what they should do? Should they go check with their doctor, set up a checkup, or contact anyone at the hospital or public health?
Okay, that's something we'd like to be able to, as much as possible, control this in the sense that we funnel all of the patients to GMH so that it's going to be easier to do the contact follow-up and all of the treatment, rather than have them go to their physician, which might, again, delay. We'd rather have the hospital take care of that.
And then, will an employee be taken out of the...
She has been already taken out.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, we had a brief discussion with our CDC folks again this morning. They'll be at the press release information session this afternoon, but and they can answer any more specific kinds of things. But we, as I say, with this disease, it is so problematic that there is nobody at fault here. It's just unfortunate that somebody who had an active case of TB was working in that situation. But probably we would start looking at maybe even reconsidering the protocols for nursery care, and maybe everybody's going to be masked. No, I don't know. We have to talk about. The hospital's going to have to decide what they're going to do with that. But it's just it's a very it's interesting how problematic this disease is, because you can sometimes do a screening and get a false positive, and sometimes get a false negative. So you never really know with this one. And as I say, it can stay, if you have a latent case, it can stay with you for a long time, and then something triggers it becoming active, and it's just.
And so when did the hospital first find out about this situation?
We found out about it on the 16th, and so we've been working with public health and trying to coordinate the appropriate response to how we deal with the situation.
Okay,
So,
thank you so much. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you
Thanks,
so
Isa.
much. So we're here at Public Health. We just heard the update from Peter John Camacho and James Gillen regarding a case of a case of active tuberculosis that was discovered with an employee at GMH. She worked at the nursery, and so they are currently going over the records to see who may have come in contact with this employee, and they are coordinating a response effort to make sure that anyone who may have been exposed is tested. Do we have Dr. Shea on the line here?
We're trying to get him right now. He said that he missed the beginning of it, so I know you getting him up to speed is certainly fine. Yeah, Dr. Thomas Shea, who is not on Guam right now, and actually he. Okay.
Yes, so Dr. Shea is actually in Hawaii right now, but he was interested in joining our.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring him in right now. So once again, Dr. Shea sending him a invite right now. So. Yes.
Okay. So once again, if you're just catching up on what's going on, there may have been, there were roughly since, I think GMH is looking back through their records since April just to be safe. And so there are possibly around 300 infants who may have gone through the GMH nursery and may have been exposed to an employee at the hospital who was found to have active tuberculosis. She didn't have any signs or symptoms. It was only discovered through an executive checkup, luckily, and then the readings were kind of off on her checkup, and so that's how it was discovered that she did have tuberculosis. And so if you don't know too much about tuberculosis, I guess it's more of an issue in our region because of our environment and maybe contagious, and so GMH and Public Health are currently coordinating a response.
Okay, Isa, we are here. Dr. Shea, we greatly appreciate you taking some time. I know you're off island right now attending family matters, but we do appreciate you joining us right now. Isa Baza here at Public Health and Dr. Tom Shea from Hawaii. Good afternoon and half a day, doctor.
Hi, Dr. Shea.
Hi, aloha.
Aloha. So thanks for joining us. We just finished up hearing some information about from GMH and Public Health. So it turns out there may have been, there was an employee with active tuberculosis working at the hospital who didn't have any signs or symptoms, possibly since April. So the hospital is now working with Public Health to make sure that everyone who may have been exposed to the employee who is working in the nursery will be tested just in case, to make sure that everything, to find out if there has been any contacts that have resulted in any further cases. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think majority of the babies bypass the nursery to begin with. We've instituted the bypass, I think, several months already. So when the baby's born, it stays with the mom or it goes directly bypass to the OB ward. So there is a setup that bypasses the nursery. So it doesn't really go into the nurseries anymore. So I'm sure that Peter John and Public Health will be working together to do the isolation protocols. But this really is the first time I heard about it. So I'm sure it's to them. But we usually don't make any announcement until the confirmatory test that comes back. But we'll see. I mean, majority of the people in the hospital certainly will know what to do.
Okay, definitely. So like we heard, they are coordinating that response. Anything, for those who've never been to the nursery, how big is it? Is it a small space, big space?
Well, I mean, the nursery really is right now GMH is, we only have the intermediate nursery or the NICU, and that's pretty much it. We're supposed to be renovating pretty soon. And if the renovation had occurred, certainly the isolation would be much, much better. That's why I've been pushing for the GMH to renovate their labor and delivery. I know the governor's office has advocated for it. Peter John says it's in the works, but it's been 2.5 years since we tried to renovate labor and delivery. And I've been trying to emphasize this point because this is one of the issues that we try to contain, because if we can contain it, not just TB, but any infectious disease that comes about, this is very important for the governor to take hold. This is the urgency why we have to renovate labor and delivery. And I've been pushing this point over the last 2.5 years.
Okay, thanks so much, Dr. Shea. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, if Peter John is there, Peter John, I keep saying you got to renovate it. This is one of the issues that if you had renovated, you could have contained it much, much better.
Okay, so thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Shea. I know Peter John has been working on the renovation of the labor and delivery ward for years now. So stay tuned. We'll have more information about this situation on Primetime tonight at 6 p.m.